Hello, and welcome to a special edition of the Power Hour. We're having a sit down based on some conversations and things that have been happening within the city of Pittsburgh. And so, as you know, One Hood Power, as we're here to have conversations within our community, we said there's a lot of conversation going out here about Juneteenth, a lot of misinformation, disinformation. So, let's go straight to the source. Let's have this conversation about what the city is doing to preserve our history and our culture. And so, with that, we want to welcome Jake Wheatley, who is the Chief of Staff for the City of Pittsburgh in the mayoral office. Welcome to our sit down, Chief of Staff Wheatley.
Thank you, Ms. Miracle. I appreciate you and One Hood Power for always being accessible and being a true outlet for our community to have the real straight dope conversation. So I appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you. And so I'm just going to get straight to it. I know you say you do not like to do interviews. So the question that is on top of line for everyone's mind is, does the mayor's office support Juneteenth? And if so, what is this new RFP process that folks heard about in the news?
Sure, and I appreciate the question. And let me just say this: I'm really excited that so many people are interested in the upliftment of Black and Brown culture, and that they have an interest to see us support financially and otherwise the growth of these types of things, because that's an initiative that the mayor is very committed to, has always been committed to. And I'm hoping that as we continue down this road, those same voices will be at the table when we're fighting to increase access for affordable housing throughout our city, that these same voices will be at the table helping us to push the needle around making sure the investments into our high and extreme need neighborhoods are being made in an equitable way, and that the safety and security of our Black and Brown and disadvantaged people are all supported. So I'm glad that we have this conversation. And when you ask if the mayor supports Juneteenth, I mean, that goes without question. I mean, the mayor as a state rep was one of the few elected officials from the very beginning that supported this private event promoter in the thought of bringing this cultural activity to the city. And he has stayed supportive of this, to the point that when we first came into the office, you know, the mayor was very instrumental in making sure the debt that was owed by the private event promoter was taken care of, that we gave and helped raise resources to bring forth this celebration in his first year. The second year, we went even a step greater. We took money from the taxpayers, federal investment money that could have went anywhere, and we made it available to this private event promoter to support, to show that the city and this mayor particularly was supportive. And at the time when we did that, there was a lot of backlash that happened for us giving that, because again, in context, this is not a city-sponsored event. When we gave the original money, this was a private event promoter who is holding an event that the mayor supports culturally, and we tried to figure out a way to support it financially. And then we told everyone, hey, look, the next year we're going to open up this process that anyone could apply to be the sponsor for the city's own Juneteenth celebration. Now, we wanted this to be a collaboration and a collaborative experience, but we can't determine that until we get proposals in and decided which is best for the city to move forward in. And that's how we ended up with this proposal process. And the open RFP process went in. We had 3 respondents to the process. We had a committee that was put together to kind of identify what was really what we thought was special or critical to the city, which is the support of local artists. Like, we want to make sure local artists are getting supported financially, because again, one of the mayor's main priorities was, how do we really deepen and support our Pittsburgh-based artists to grow that cultural muscle here, where artists don't have to leave in order to survive, but their city and their region is supporting them in their growth here. So we think we're going to have a wonderful first step at this, and we are encouraged that the private event promoter of Juneteenth will still have his opportunity to do his event, and the city will do one, and they won't be competing, and we'll have more cultural exposure for our Black and brown and others to enjoy.
Thank you so much for that. So you were saying that this was something that people knew about last year, because one of the critiques people have said was the RFP process is so close. It's due in April to have event in June. You said this is the first stab at this RFP process. Would the mayor's office take under advisement to have this RFP process for next year in the future to be released earlier, so that it could be more competitive and people would feel more comfortable engaging in the RFP process, knowing that they would have a little more time to create an event?
Yeah, and again, we really were trying to time this out in a way that we could have the best event possible. But for a number of reasons, our timing just kept getting delayed. And, when you work through a bureaucracy, when you're trying to do something new and different, you run into, different hurdles that you didn't anticipate. And that's what took us a little off of our schedule. But we do anticipate, hopefully in the future, depending upon the city's financial ability to, again, put on, like we put on for the 4th of July, we have to pay for that ourselves. We would like to figure out a way to pay for our own Juneteenth celebration in the future, but that's going to all be dependent upon our budgetary realities as we move forward. But we do hope to have an open process to do that in the future.
Thank you so much for that. And a lot of people talk about, with the mayor's office being a city for all, what the RFP process is. This is sometimes their first encounter with a process like this. Can you just talk about how these processes are being used and how they can create transparency for budgetary or audit reasons in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny experience when you're the first of something, especially when you're the first African American mayor in a city where you have a DA and others who are always looking for reasons to elevate your processes and your actions. And so we want to be very careful in making sure we create processes. Because again, the mayor is trying to change systems that have been structurally and historically created and have Black and brown and disadvantaged people at a disadvantage. And so when you're attacking those systems, if you look through history, when you're attacking those systems, there are always people who have benefited from the way things were, who are looking to challenge you from changing those systems. So we have to be very extra careful in how we do that. And so that's why we go through these RFPs, because our council, our legal counsel, as well as our city council have all said to us clearly, we want to be transparent and we want to make sure we know how taxpayer money, because this is, at the end of the day, it's taxpayer money. It's all the taxpayers who pay for these bills. And they want to make sure we're doing it in a way that's fair and square for everyone to apply.
And you're saying that I think that it's very important to say the backdrop is we are a part of this national movement where people are looking at affirmative action, where people are looking at the ways in which governments and private entities are trying to restore some of the disinvestment that has happened within our communities. We know at the very beginning of the mayor's term, the program to invest in wages and to give people a standard wage, that pilot had to go away because there was a threat of a lawsuit from a far right legal firm that said if you go with this pilot, we will sue you, because it was looking at standardized wages for Black women. And so we know that with this office, you're under a microscope, but your priorities are still with the people. You're still trying to bring people in, still trying to, be transparent and get a lot of these systems changing in. Can you also just talk a little bit more about the barriers that the mayor's office has faced while trying to, support Juneteenth and support other programs that make this city livable for all of us?
Yeah, I'm gonna say this, Miracle. And the mayor probably is gonna get mad at me saying this, but I can't help myself. You know, I'm one of these types of people who I like to get right to it, and we keep having this annual conversation about a celebration, which I'm all for celebrating our culture. But this annual conversation is about whether we're investing in this one cultural experience when we're trying to have a broader conversation about how do we really change the dynamics of how Black and brown and poor people are experiencing our city. And it's important to point out that people will pick and choose the things that they want to throw stones and arrows at this administration about. But what they are missing is the critical work that the mayor has is challenging us all to do, to reimagine how this city should be, and if it's really going to be a city for all of its citizens. And that means we have to center those who have been furthest behind and left behind and furthest marginalized. And the mayor has said, as a critical point of measuring our work, we have to center Black and brown people. We have to center those people who have lived in these historic neighborhoods that have been, the county has designated as high and extreme need neighborhoods, to the point where
I think we a little bit of technical difficulties, and we know Jake Wheatley will be rejoining us momentarily, but was talking about the need for Juneteenth and supporting Juneteenth as not only a cultural event and institution, but also as a private event institution. And so we're waiting for Chief of Staff to rejoin us at this time. But if you are just joining us, or you were able to join us late, the Chief of Staff was just talking a little bit about the work that he was doing, and the way the mayor's office was engaging the community in order to make sure this was a city that is livable for all of us. At the top of the program, he was talking about the RFP process and saying that the RFP process was, people were notified about the RFP process last year that it was coming. But that due to barriers and due to bureaucracy, the RFP was released later than what the city would have liked for it to be, because one of the critiques that people had with the RFP process is not only that we have to go through this process in order to get this funding, but that it came 2 to 3 months before a program was supposed to be implemented, and that would put people at a disadvantage or make people feel that they were not able to create an experience worthy of the celebration within 2 months. And so that was one of the things that the chief of staff was saying. In addition, it was talking about this was an opportunity to not only support the ongoing Juneteenth as we know it, that's been going on since 2013, but also to expand it for the city And we haven't really gotten to get into those details, but saying that these are not competing events. These are not two events that are going to happen at the same time, where people would have to pick and choose which Juneteenth to support. And so that was something that was, again, the people had a lot of concern about. We were getting emails and messages. When are you going to have this conversation about Juneteenth? Juneteenth is something, and if you are not aware, Juneteenth represents, and it is now a federal holiday that is to represent the end of chattel slavery within America. The reason we call it Juneteenth is because on June 19th, in Galveston, Texas, the slaves there were notified at the end of the Civil War had happened, and they were now free. The reason it's significant is because at that time in Galveston, Texas, while the rest of the continental U.S. had stopped the practice of chattel slavery, it was still ongoing in Galveston because the landowners and slave owners there still wanted to get through their work, their crops for the season, and did not inform people of their freedom. And so Juneteenth honors that legacy, the legacy of chattel slavery, the legacy of freedom, and allows us to come back in. So the chief of staff is about to join us back in one moment. And then we will come back on. We just had a little bit of technical difficulties, and he is coming back on, and he'll be there. So that is what Juneteenth is. That is the history of Juneteenth. And so again, when the stories first broke that Juneteenth was going to go through an RFP, and that the city was going to do their own Juneteenth, it caused, a lot of conversation. A lot of people were taken aback. They didn't understand what was happening, what was going on. And so that's why we thought it was very important to have this conversation in context, because Pittsburgh, we're trying to make the city a place for all of us, and for all of us to work together, we have to have these open lines of communication. And sometimes we lovingly call in each other. Sometimes we lovingly call out each other. But this is a place where we all are, and so we all have to work together and to work in this beloved community, so that we are in support and engagement for the work that is being done. And so, with Juneteenth being something that is near and dear to so many of our hearts, we wanted to we felt it was very necessary to have this conversation with the chief of staff, and to just talk about how we can support Juneteenth, how we can support our local artists, and what basically are the barriers that government kind of creates. A lot of times we think that there's these rapid responses that our elected officials are able to create for us, but as we're seeing with these RFP processes, as we're also seeing with pushback from other elected officials, that sometimes it's not as easy as we perceive him to be. And so with that, we're going to bring Chief of Staff back in to finish his point and to talk about what he was saying about the needs of prioritizing people who are most impacted. So I know you were cut off right when you were getting to your point, Chief of Staff Wheatley, and I'm bringing you back in to finish.
Hey, I'm not normally a conspiracy theory person, but the Illuminati working overtime today, I see. But but no, for real, I just think that we have a lot of critical investments and changes that we want to make as a city, and we're just now getting past going on 3 years in office. And when we first came in, the mayor has set some real aggressive goals for us to reach around changing the reality and transforming our city for our least. And so it's going to take us time. We're not going to be perfect. We never claim to be perfect. And in this discussion, we get caught up on this one event, but there are major systemic changes that we are trying to do every day, each and every day, that we don't have the opportunity to really talk about and to engage. And so what I'm encouraging your listeners and people who really care about the transformation that's needed in the city, that we have a whole bunch of resources that we got to get out and effectively measure its impact through our Stop the Violence Trust Fund. So we would like to put that in the hands of organization and people who are actually on the ground doing the work, like One Hood and others. We are, and I said this leading up, we are trying to really open up the affordable market for housing, because we know that's a critical need that's in our city that we want to stay in front of. So we are trying to figure out ways to bring resources to that and bring that conversation together. And we really want to keep people safe. We want to keep these neighborhoods safe, and we want to keep our youth engaged, and we want to have opportunities for them to grow and stay here. And so these are broader conversations that we would love to, be engaged with, and not every year have to get held up on if individuals believe that this city wants to see diverse opportunities and cultural expression. Without question, this mayor is committed to not only the events like Juneteenth, but the Pride event, for all of the events that open up and celebrate the various cultures and attitudes and expressions that we have as residents in this city. And in order to do that, we have to create processes that don't disadvantage anyone. And again, when we use taxpayer money, there's a different level of scrutiny that happens, and a different level of requirement that happens. And so we want to create fair opportunities for people to have fun, to express themselves, and to support the regional cultural attractions. And that's what we're trying to get to.
Thank you so much. And I think that's fair, right? You're the first mayor who is really trying to lead in ways that we have not seen before. And so there are going to be first great steps, and then there's going to be missteps. And so I really appreciate that you are bringing to light some of the issues and barriers that you face, because, Pittsburgh, we have Little Italy days. You said we have Pride, we have Juneteenth, we have, the Greek food festival. We have so many festivals that are in this region that are near and dear to people, and everyone is wanting support, everyone is wanting investment, everyone is wanting the same opportunities. And so I do think that I personally appreciate the transparency and the vulnerability of talking about what is going on and why there are some delays. And I know you do have another meeting, but as we were talking about the city and making it livable for all, is there anything else that you would like to bring up at this time? Any other events that you want to talk about? I know that there is the youth event. I believe that may be this evening in Market Square, the youth after school program. There's a lot of stuff that the mayor's office is doing, really, to invest in our youth, to invest in our seniors, to make sure, again, that downtown is revitalized, but also all of our neighborhoods are getting support and investment. Is there anything you would like to talk about in regards to that?
Yeah, I don't want to mess anything up, because there are people who are better versed in all of these dates, and I'll start telling you dates and names of things, and then you'll be saying that Chief Wheatley gave me the wrong date and name. But there are a lot of activities that the mayor, we're going to be doing our City in the Streets again, where we're inviting all of our residents in various neighborhoods to come out. So I would really ask folk to take a look at our city page, our gauge page around our City in the Streets program. Our neighborhood services team is one of the best, I think, that I've been around. They're really engaging. We be on the lookout for our efforts around youth recruitment for what the mayor has been saying, his youth advisory commission. He really wants to center youth and make sure youth voices are part of what we are creating in this city, not as an afterthought, but as an initial framing of it. So we're going to be doing some outreach to recruit some youth for that. And so we have a lot of exciting things coming down the pipeline. I think a lot of exciting announcements that are going to be happening very soon, that really, again, brings to fruition the mayor's charge when he first came into office, is that we're going to push the envelope. We're going to reimagine what this city can be, and we're going to force this city and this region to live up to the expectations of all of our citizens being a true partner in what this city becomes in the next 20 years.
Thank you so much for that. And I know you said there's a lot of stuff to go to the city's webpage. And so with that, I think that this has been a learning experience for all of us, and it may be like really important for the city, maybe once or twice a week, to say, you know what, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and this is the impact of what's happening. These are some of the changes that we made, and this is why we have made these changes. And I know that what I forgot the quote was, it, uh, with great responsibility, there is a lot of pride and support that people have for this administration, but are always wanting better and transparent communication, because I believe that y'all have set the standard for communication and you're doing the work, but sometimes people don't know what work you're doing, what work is changing. Outside of being one of the most diverse mayor's office, you have been leading some changes. You talked about the youth. We saw yesterday, with the opening of the Shake Shack, we saw a lot of communities that are represented in those employees. We know you've been partnering with businesses to hire more youth, to do more community youth programming. We know we celebrated, I believe it was like a 30% reduction within gun violence, but we know there's so much more that has to be done. And you have a lot of these great programs, but I do fear that a lot of people, because you're doing the work so much, that sometimes people don't know what's happening or why. And so I do think it would be really important for the office to, like, maybe do a rundown. Not everybody is on the website, but maybe on the social media. I do think it helps and allows people to find ways to plug in, because as the mayor says, it's on all of us to work together to figure out where we can fit in to alleviate some of these boundaries, and some of these barriers. So I do think that, that is something that we would like more for the administration, because I think that sometimes when people don't see you or they don't see the mayor out, they feel like the mayor's office may not be support or doing things. So I think that kind of helps with that communication. And I know you have a really great staff and a really great press team. And so I do think that is, something that the community is asking for.
No, and I appreciate that, and that's good feedback. And first of all, Miracle, anybody who says they don't see the mayor out, now they may not see Jake Wheatley out, but they're going to see the mayor out, because he believes in, you cannot represent and lead people if you aren't touching, feeling, and seeing what they see. So he believes in being out. He's everywhere, and I don't know where the man gets the energy to be everywhere, but I hear what you're saying. And what I will make a commitment to saying to you and One Hood is, if you all will create a space for us to come in, it may not be me, but someone from the administration on a more regular basis can check in with you and give you an update. Like, we're doing some wonderful things around our procurement modernization. We have some wonderful work going on around civil rights in the Office of Equal Protection that was newly created under this administration. We have some wonderful stuff that's going on with a partnership with PPS and our youth, Prepare to Prosper workforce stuff. We have some workforce hub that really we are asking for community involvement in. So there is a lot of stuff that we can come and talk and share. And I think we've just been, like you said, so focused on doing the work and fighting the battles of this inside game, that we forgot that you have to communicate to the outside, the people, because the people will make this struggle a lot easier for us when they are involved and educated. So I agree with you. I will make the commitment that maybe someone from our comm team will work with you, and we'll get a more regular schedule to come on and really update the people about the work of this administration.
Perfect. And we appreciate that. And we'll also reach out to, city and county divisions as well, because I think communication also prevents people from having these animosities and being like adversaries. And so hopefully, we can get everyone on the tune of working together. So I really appreciate that. And again, we'll always, like I said, sometimes we prefer to call in instead of call out. So we'll always engage. But I really appreciate that. And before we go, I just, for clarification, the city's sponsored Juneteenth event is not happening at the same time. I think people are I think we cut out before we got that. I know you have to go, but can you just clarify that
Sure.
so people know that these are not two competing events?
Sure. First of all, the entity that won the the city sponsored Juneteenth, Fantasy Zellers and Bounce Marketing Media. They're excellent. They put on the annual August Wilson House event in the Hill District, and it's grown tremendously. They're going to do something later in June, so it's not going to be competitive with any of the former Juneteenth events that people have come so excited about. So they're not, and it's going to be a 1 day experience that is different than what particularly the other Juneteenth celebrations are like. So this is not competition. People shouldn't feel threatened, but the city has a responsibility to its citizens to have its Independence Day. Juneteenth is one of the national recognized independent days of this country for Black people. And so the city should have its own sponsored event to recognize that day, and we will, and it will not be on the same day as the other Juneteenth celebration.
Perfect. And then, of course, the mayor's office is still supporting and participating in events with the Juneteenth that this people know.
Mayor's up with Ray like he's always shown up. He's going to show up. I think he's one of the coaches, celebrity coaches for the softball game. And, he'll be at every event that he's been at because, again, he believes you got to be amongst the people to understand what the people needs are. So he'll be there.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Chief of Staff Wheatley. I know you had a hard stop, so I'm gonna give you back your 3 minutes. So I really appreciate you coming in. And again, thank you so much. And then I will exit you out of the studio. So if you are just tuning in, or if you came in before we started, this conversation was centered around the conversations about Juneteenth, what was going on, were there going to be two competing Juneteenth, was the city moving away from support? And so Chief of Staff Jake Wheatley joined us for that. I will say that this has been a conversation that we reached out about. And so the way we had this interview is we went through the city website, requested an interview, and it took a few days, and we had it, right? So a lot of times people do not also understand the way that city government works, and they think that stuff moves immediately, and it does not. It takes a little bit of time, going through the process. But again, with the call that this administration has said that they will be transparent, that they will be open, and that they will be available, we always will try to reach out when we have conversations. We know we have some conversations coming up about housing. We have some conversations coming up about healthcare. We have some conversations coming up about gun violence. So these are not one-off conversations. We are really trying to use this moment that we have right now of alignment to really make sure that the city of Pittsburgh is livable for all of us. It's a place where we can all live and thrive, and understanding that there are rules and regulations that even I am not even privy to or aware of. And so that's how we believe in having these dialogues to get answers. People had requested for us to have this conversation. People had sent in their questions, and so that is why we have that, because as a media entity, we are still here to serve the people. And so when people request that we have these conversations, we will always try to have them, try to engage, and try to do our best with the capacity that we have to bring you directly the information. And so again, we want to thank Chief of Staff Jake Wheatley. We hope that this was able to answer some of the questions that you had, but I think some of the biggest things are these are not two competing Juneteenths, that the mayor's office is supporting their own individual Juneteenth awareness at the end of June, so people don't have to pick and choose. That the mayor is supporting the Juneteenth that we know and love, that's been around since 2013. The mayor will be as part of the parade, part of some of the programs, but then there is a wider conversation about how we're able to obtain financial support for our Black and Brown led events within the city. And so that's the ongoing conversation that we did not, solve today. And so we look forward to having more of those conversations, and we look forward to engaging you all. So again, thank you so much for sitting down with us for this Wednesday morning sit down. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to talking to you in the future. And with that, thank you so much. Have a great week, y'all.